After 10 books traditionally published without an agent, I've decided to self publish a series. Can you give me some tips that I might miss to make this happen? This is such a broad question. I looked at this question and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to answer this because there's so many things. There's so much in self publishing. And so I really thought about okay, what are some things that somebody who is coming from traditional publishing to indie publishing might not know or might get overwhelmed with, or um, people might get wrong and tell them. So I have a couple of pieces of advice for you, and it's probably not what you're expecting. And then I will give you one piece of advice that you might have been like that's a little bit more in line with what you were expecting. My biggest piece of advice when anybody is going into indie publishing is to figure out how you want your business to fit around your life. How much time do you have to spend on your business? And what are your business values? Because those two things are going to help you determine what you are and aren't willing to do within your indie publishing career, also within your traditional publishing career. But as an example, a lot of times people will give you advice that simply isn't going to work for you, but they insist that it is the only way to be successful in indie publishing. This is probably the one thing that I hear most often from authors who come to me for coaching and consultation, and they're just really frustrated because they have heard so often that you have to be able to write really fast. You have to have rapid releases. And that is the only way to be successful. And they get frustrated and disappointed and defeated because they've already decided, well, I can't do that because it's not within, they can't fit that into their life. So my answer to you is don't let anybody convince you that there is something you absolutely have to do in order to be successful. Because if there was just one thing, everybody would be successful because everybody would do that one thing. But the fact is, different things work for different people. So you figure out how much time you have to spend, how fast you can write, how often you want to publish, whether or not you're going to burn yourself out. Figure out what you like for book pricing. Do you want to use Kindle Unlimited or do you want to go wide? Investigate all of the pros and cons of both. And don't let anybody tell you that there is only one way. The other thing is don't try to do all of the things. If you try and do all the things, if you're trying to do all the social media, plus write 5,000 words a day, publish a book a month, be on Facebook, do Facebook ads, do Amazon ads, do a podcast, um, interact with your readers, have a newsletter, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. And I will tell you that when we see authors burn out, they've almost never come back with the same passion and enthusiasm and love for publishing and writing that they had when they first started out. So I always encourage people to try and avoid burnout before you get it. And that means not trying to do all of the things. So figuring out how to make self-publishing work for you, not how it works for your bestie, not how it works for your critique partners, not how it works for that best-selling author or that lady's husband who's a best-selling author. Don't figure out how it works for them. You can look at what's working for them, but just because it's working for them doesn't mean that's the way you need to do it. Okay. Couple of things though, practical advice that you might miss in indie publishing. The first thing is you as a traditionally published author never had to think about pricing. So when you're thinking about pricing, remember that pricing does not need to be static, meaning you don't have to set the price and forget about it. You can play with pricing. It can go up, it can go down. My recommendation is always don't punish early adopters, your fans, meaning don't set the book price really high on release day and then be like, oh, this really isn't selling. And a month later be like, hey, it's on sale. Because all that's doing is telling your fans, the people who buy early and buy right away from you, that they should wait. So reward the early adopters and then raise the price. So play with pricing. Pricing isn't static. The other thing is remember to get professional advice on covers and to look at what's selling. So many authors just go with what they like, what they think is a great representation of the book, and they try and art direct their cover, and they forget that covers are really important in marketing. And if you're not a professional, if you don't have experience designing a cover and art directing a cover, you may get a cover that doesn't fit into your genre, that doesn't stand out in marketing, and that isn't going to sell books. So be humble when it comes to your cover and be open with an open mind and let people, experts, not just everybody, experts in cover art give you advice and pay attention to the marketing aspects of that. And then the third thing I would say is just be strategic with your releases. Um, don't feel like you have to release your books on a certain timetable. But if you have an idea of how often that you can write or how much you can write, how long editing is going to take, and all of those things, then you can be strategic and plot out so readers know when they can expect your next book. And then because you have been traditionally published, you may forget that if you're going to be working with an editor as an indie publisher, as an indie author, you need to book the editor ahead of time. And I usually suggest that as soon as you are writing the book, start thinking about when it's going to be finished and you're going to be ready for edits, and reach out to the editor and book the editor, because good editors are often booked up months in advance. So those are a couple of things to make sure you don't miss. I would say one other thing is you're probably not going to be used to the fact that you can change and be in control of your front and back matter, meaning the things that go into the front of your book and the things that go into the back of your book. So be organized with that. Have a Google folder or a Notion document or a spreadsheet or something where you keep things that you can just copy and paste, and then be ready to update them, because now you have control of the books. You can update the information that's in there so it's current. So that's why being organized is really important. So there's just some advice for moving from traditionally published to indie published. You're in charge now. It's all going to fall on you. It's overwhelming, but it can also be really freeing. So good luck. And I wish you all of the success.